Good morning. My name is Mike Wink. I'm Operations Section Chief with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1, and we're here for your current situation of the Dixie Fire West Zone. Here in Branch 9, efforts continue in this Mineral Warner Valley area. We put black line on the map. A lot of those areas, the roads are starting to become open with hazard tree removal. The utility work has been made safe, and those evacuation warnings and orders are being transitioned back into different statuses that gets folks back in there. So continue tactical patrol, looking for any hot spots, anything still smoking. We're in there with the community and the public. If you do see something that needs our attention, please go ahead and call 911. Don't phone a friend. Don't send Facebook messages. Follow the normal process. Call 911, report a smoke in your area, give the detailed information, and we'll have somebody out there. We're there in the local area with all the local fire departments working to make sure everything is addressed. We'll have one hot spot back in this corner that's still being worked on and validated today, but that's also holding well. We don't expect any changes there. As we get up here in the National Park in Branch 13, they're making a lot of good efforts in there, trying to use existing roadways. They are using some mechanicalized equipment for fuels reduction, chainsaws, hand line, some other mechanicalized equipment to assist with fire control efforts. They are using water dropping and retardant dropping aircraft and helicopters on a case-by-case situation, but we're working very well together, and things are slowly coming together there in the park. It's a big piece that's taken a lot of time to connect all the dots, but all of our west and southwest winds are keeping it within the park and burning upon itself, so that's going well. Up here at the top end, where it comes down off the repeater site, we've got primary line on there. Everything's holding. They're mopping that piece up. And then in the community of Old Station. So Old Station is everything from the fire's edge all the way up into Shasta County there. We call it the Shasta sector. So Old Station refers to everything outside the fire's edge, all the subdivisions, all the small communities, valleys of risk, highways, roads, all that stuff in that general area. So we continue to put in primary, secondary, contingency, tertiary, and emergency lines, working on roadway fuels reduction, working around valleys of risk in those subdivisions. And those efforts all in this area will be ongoing and nonstop, contiguous, until this fire here is all contained. So the fuels reduction efforts up in this area will continue until this is contained. When this is contained, then our efforts to strengthen those lines just in case and do fuels reduction along all those roads and stuff, that's when we'll transition out of that. As we come now here into Branch 16, so over the last 3-4 days, the fire coming out of the Caribou Wilderness just slowly outpaced all of our fire suppression efforts. Primary line, secondary line, contingency line, tertiary line, emergency line, all those things. It just slowly outpaced all of our efforts with the resources we had available with the red flag conditions. Yesterday afternoon, the Westwood Hall Road that comes off the A12 that then connects back into the 44. You can see that line right there. It's holding on that line. We had multiple spots across the line, but yesterday afternoon, we were able to get aircraft, fixed wing, and rotary wing in there to slow it down while we then had time to get engines, crews, and dozers in there to get that wrapped. So everything is holding right here. So the night before, we had to close Highway 44 from the A21 to Old Station. As of this morning, because of the efforts of all those folks out there yesterday and the continued efforts of the folks out there today, the 44 has been now reopened from A21 to Old Station. So that's good news. Also, the story continues in this Branch 16 area with we've got it held. We still have the highway. Next after the highway, don't forget, we've got the train easement and the power line and communication easement. So those have fuels reduction work on them. The fire train is out there again with us today. If it were to get across 44, the fire train has 50,000 gallons of water and retardant to back up our fire control efforts. It's favorable fuels. The timber is more spaced, low height brush and grass out there. So very receptive to our fire control efforts. So we've got a good plan, our primary, secondary, and our tertiary plan and contingencies are all ongoing in there. About 9:15 this morning, just for rumor control, we did have a water tender drive off the road and have a slow speed, slow rollover onto its side and the roof. So out there on the A10 road, that did occur. There's been no injuries and no additional response is needed other than we'll be assisting the property owner recovering the vehicle, the water tender out of there. But it's not stopping fire suppression or fire control efforts. It's just one of those things that starts happening, and then we incorporate it into our daily activity. Once again, slow speed, slow intensity, just got off the corner of the road, rolled over on its side and then a little bit onto its roof. No injury to the driver, no additional threats there. So just for rumor control. As we come back down around now, we're going to get down to this Westwood area, Chester, West Almanor, all along the Highway 36 corridor and then into the meadow. So the Highway 36 corridor is looking good. We continue to look for hot spots and smoking material. Those efforts are ongoing with a lot of folks in there. Once again, call 911 if you see something. You should expect to see in the meadow this smoking peat moss. We keep dealing with it. We are out there. We continue to put sprinklers on it and continue to try to mitigate that. But it gets way down in the peat moss, and it's being very difficult. So those efforts are ongoing. Got a little bit of heat in these trees here. We're continuing to evaluate that. No threat to the line, but we're in there keeping an eye on it. As we now come back around to the Janesville branch, we continue to build lines north behind Janesville and towards the Susanville Valley, and then additional check lines back towards the fire in the east zone. We're constructing line along the bottom of Antelope Lake, connecting the two fire edges to try to build an additional check line, or catcher's mitt they call it. Then we've got line going from the Janesville down towards the Beckworth, and then chopping it off and having lines go down south as well. And then we're working on 395 and at the toe of the slope along 395 behind Milford, and our goal is to go all the way down to Doyle. The power pump companies are in there spraying about 150 communication and power distribution wooden poles in that area from the Janesville branch down towards Doyle, so that if something does occur down there, the communications poles and power poles are resistive to fire spread. It works. We've seen it work, and we're glad that they're in there doing that proactively. Appreciate their efforts on that to help out with everybody. So we're also working with our E-Zone partners. You see there's some line coming up right here. You see these lines coming up. We're working together to connect those lines from the piece we're working on up here, going down towards the bottom, trying to go direct on the fire's edge to stop the fire from continuing any further to the east, which would eventually get to the escarpment, which would bring it down to the 395 corridor. So we're doing everything possible with multiple lines in here, and then trying to go direct and turn it back into the Walker burn scar from a few years ago. So a lot of moving parts and pieces out there today. We have some, we're feeling pretty good about this piece over here. We're going direct as possible, holding on the Hall Road. And then as we turn this corner up here, we're trying to find opportunities to go direct and get that piece tied in. Yesterday's pyrocumulus buildup. So if you live in the area, you probably saw big smoke production down here, and then you saw some up here. The stuff up here wasn't eastward advancing head fire that was creating all of that smoke intensity and the pyrocumulus cloud buildup. That was all these islands in here as it slowly outpaced us off the Caribou multiple times. It jumped our lines. Well, it left big pockets of unburned as it was outpacing our control efforts. Most of those got consumed yesterday. That's the heavy smoke that you saw build up yesterday. So it wasn't the fire advancing far beyond our control lines. Yes, it did get out of our primary, but we've got it boxed in again. But it was burning out those interior islands. So that's a really good thing, because if those islands the fuel being consumed means there's less fuel to build the energy to create a big smoke column, which then throws spot fires across the line. So that is a good thing of what happened yesterday up here in Brand 16 for our fire control efforts. So some real positive things happening up here. We're working closely together with the East Zone down here, making multiple plans to go direct, turn into the Walker Fire, and then building multiple contingency lines all in this area to keep it off that 395 corridor. Thank you for joining us this morning. We'll talk to you tomorrow.